A few minutes early, but that's okay. Um, Today we're going to be working on the Ez8 a little bit. If you have seen any of my work in progress posts on Instagram, or if you followed any of these streams, we've done a handful of these in the past. We've talked on this just a little bit. We've gone over some of the details. I just want to go over things real quick and show you guys some of the stuff that I've done, and then we'll jump into what we're going to do. The big thing here is I've drilled out this little machine gun on the chest. For whatever reason, that wasn't included in the kit, and I think that's, as far as basic mods that you're going to do, that one is pretty essential, because even the high grade has that. I've scribed some lines across the top of the chest, and they extend underneath the chest, so it's almost like these hatches fold up. We've got some detailing on the sides. We've added a vent on the front of the chest here. I'm going to leave the main chest piece alone. I feel like that's just kind of like a chunk of metal that is just there to protect everything behind it, more so than it is an actual panel. And the fact that it folds out the way that it does doesn't really have any indication that there's anything underneath here. It's literally just a big plate of metal. So I'm going to leave that alone. Shoulders, these are pretty much the same as the ground types. We have this thing on the top. So I've gone ahead and I've added like an extra plate to that, and then I've put some strapping detail in case that plate needs to be changed on all sides. For the arms, I completely reshaped them. I added in some custom detail. The lower arms, I did a little bit of scribing, some notching, some chiseling, stuff like that. I put this little plug here. For the empty arm, we've used some 3D printed pieces to detail up some of that empty space. We've got some photo etch detail in the back of the arms. I don't know why that isn't focusing. There we go. On the back skirt, we've added some photo etch detail. We've added that plate, just like on the back skirt, or the shoulders. And then I've added some of these little ringlets that are kind of like on the chest, just in case it needs to carry any extra equipment. It can be mounted, or if it needs to be, pulled or anything like that, it can do that. Put some tow hook things down here. I've got those also mounted to the front skirts. I've cut out and added in a heat sink on to the lower part of the crotch. And I think that covers it. Oh, I extended the waist. So there's a pretty substantial waist extension. I also extended the neck. It's harder to see the neck one without pulling the head off. That's not very hard to do, but I gave it a good like 1.5 millimeters. And I think the head itself kind of hides it pretty well. But it adds a lot of extra needed height to the overall model, and it makes it look a lot better, I think. So pretty much done with all this stuff. I need to do something with the head. I'm not really sure what I want to do yet, so I'm kind of leaving that for last. So today we're going to work on the legs. Now I've gone ahead and I've started on one of them. Just this little bit of detailing here. Let's see if we focus. There we go. So a little bit of scribe detail, one little panel that pops out, just kind of like a bumper. I imagine, as far as utility is concerned, that would kind of help protect the shin against the skirt in the event that there's not a system that makes the skirts move independently as the unit walks, or if that system does exist, it would help in the event that that system malfunctioned. So today I want to go over pretty much. I want to replicate this, so I'm going to show you how I did this, and then I would like to start brainstorming ideas for the back, and then maybe start working on ideas for the side panels. So I just realized that I left something pretty important downstairs. So let me go grab that real quick and then we'll get started. Okay. I was building this at my mom's house, so I left all my sanding sponges in there. I kind of need them. Okay. Oh. My chair almost. That's not good. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little armor piece off, and we're going to try and duplicate this detail as closely as possible. So we're going to go in here with some 800 grit, and I'm just going to kind of rough the surface up a little bit so that I can mark down my lines. Now, for the front of the leg, I kind of tried to stay a little bit in the spirit of like the real grade line, and I took a little bit of inspiration from that. So if anybody's seen or built the RG Gundam or the 3.0 Master Grade, you'll know that the front panel is just kind of divided with some smaller panels in the middle, and then those are divided a little bit further. So the first thing I did is I just kind of sketched out some lines. Now on the actual piece, I use the diagonals. There's very slight diagonals in the bottom of this as my reference points. So starting where the diagonal meets the bottom or the top are where my lines are going to start. So when I line up my tape, that's what I'm going to use to draw those first lines. So let's go ahead and get that done. If I can find my scribing tape. Oh, there it is. And then for this, I'm just going to use the 0.1, and we're just going to very lightly, very slowly pull this, make sure we set it along the tape, let the scriber do all the work for you. It'll take a couple more passes than if you were to add some pressure to it, but it makes sure that your line is nice and clean and straight and you don't skip. And that's really the most important thing. If you start putting a lot of pressure, you're going to make your lines look real janky. So the more you practice this, the better and cleaner your lines are going to look. Wipe off some of that plastic dust. Let's go the other way just to make sure that the line is nice and channeled out on both sides. And then I think I can use this one more time. Let's see if we can get this in that other side. And then let's channel this side out. So same way, nice light lines, almost no pressure. And I scribe off the piece if I need to. Let's see if I can move this in just a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. we'll flip that around. We're going to do it again on the other side. And this one doesn't need as much. So then you pull that off. We're going to hit this with the 800 grit again. And then I'm just going to very lightly run my chisel through that one more time. And there we've got our first lines. Can't really see them because of the contrast, but they're there. There's 2 lines. Let's see if I got a marker around here I can use. I can just use pencil. So there we go. You should see that a little better now, hopefully, maybe. Probably too much light. There we go. So first 2 lines are done. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other lines that run across. So the easy line I did here was used from reference. I literally just found that little edge. There's like a slight contour in the piece, and I just scribed along that. So lay your tape. Right along that. And then this is where you're going to want to start exercising a little bit more care. So very gently, again, run that line just across here a couple times. And it'll start, you'll feel it start going in. There we go. Oh, looks like I went a little bit out. That's okay. We can fix that later. Yeah, working with this camera is a nightmare. Hopefully I can upgrade it soon and do something with a little bit better manual focus or better autofocus settings. Alright, so scribe that in. Now I believe this is also how I got my top line. I used the same piece to just kind of, that set the width for that. So we're going to scribe one across the top here too. Again, work slowly, not a race. Oh, jumped the line a little bit. That's okay though. Then we're going to flip that. We're going to do it again from the other side. All right. And then before we pull the tape up, we're actually going to go ahead and carve our notches and stuff in. So I've got 2 notches on the outside of the top piece and 1 long notch that runs along the bottom piece here. So for the bottom one, we're going to start right here. I'm just going to very gently pull that. And I'm not going to pull it the whole way. I'm going to pull it most of the way, but not the whole way. And the reason for that is that I'm going to come in from the other side and meet it in the middle. And then I'll be able to like square it up a little bit better. So there's the bottom one, maybe. And then the top one is just going to be the same thing, just on the outer sides. This is a little bit harder to do, just because you want to, like, it's going to take a lot of passes, basically, because you don't want to go outside that line. So moving very slightly is a little bit more difficult if you want to set up another piece of tape so that you don't go outside, like I just did. And then another thing you can do is you can kind of push to kind of square things off a little bit. And that's usually what I'll do just to finish it. So there's one side. There we go. Then push and push. All right, so now I feel good pulling that tape off. We're going to get this with the 800 one more time. Just kind of hit it with a little bit of back and forth. And then we're going to run our chisel just through these big lines, and we'll grab the small chisel, do the same thing with the little lines, and then we'll have a look at it. There we go. I'm on. So, pretty solid start. So the last step to this is I'll probably knock this off the desk, which means I'm going to have to go find a piece. Definitely not that one. Well, I had it, but that's okay, because I'm not totally sold on that piece anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it off and do it again. So for this one, we're just going to get rid of that, and we'll redo it. So for this one, let's use 0.10 by 0.20. I'm just going to chop a little bit of that off. And then we need to figure out how much we need. So I'm going to try and match this little detail as much as possible. So we'll start with that. And these don't have to be super exact, but the closer the better. So I think I basically got it. So now we're just going to test that on the piece and see if it looks right, and it's too big. That's way too much. I'll chop off like 1 millimeter and see if it looks better. Still a little too much, so let's chop off like 1 more on the other side just to make sure it's nice and squared off. And I'm much happier with that. All right. So glue. Oh, I think I stuck that in here too. I did not. Oh, there it is. It was behind my drink. So I'm just going to dab this right here. I'm going to set that in. And then leave it alone. Too much contrast. Otherwise you can't see anything though. Come on. Boom. So again, we're just going to chop like 1 millimeter off this side. Chop like 1 millimeter off this side. And again, there we have it. So, all right. So, that part, easy enough. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the backs of the legs. Now, doing the fronts of the legs the way I've done them, I'm not really sure what I want to do with the back. So in my head, I imagine that these are made up of one large section in the back, as I don't think the back is going to be as maintenanced as the front. So I split the front into 2 side panels and then a center panel with a couple breaks in case, you know, the front mechanics need to be worked on. Again, I don't think the back is going to be worked on as frequently, so leaving that as one plate didn't seem like a huge problem to me. So my problem now is, what do I want to do with it? So we're going to put on screen share. Let me pull this out of here. use Firefox. No. We're going to share this screen. I think. Yeah. So what I've got here is a bunch of references because I'm not really sure what I want to do yet. I wanted to go through some reference, find some photos on Twitter. Twitter is like my #1 source for like finding stuff. Sometimes you'll see something cool pop up on like Facebook or Instagram, but Twitter is like the spot. So I went through my likes and I found a bunch of ground type Gundams that I liked. And here we can look at, oh god, where'd it go? We can look at the front skirt detail is kind of what I went for with mine. It's just that box with the notch across the top. I really like the way that looks. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the legs. So this on the fronts of the legs has this. It's hard to see here. It's like a trapezoid. On the back, however, it's got these really cool little, I don't know what to call this, but it's like a armor plate. Now I really like this, but that's really going to restrict how much the leg can move. So I don't think I'm going to be adding anything like that on this build, but it's something to look at in the future. Now another thing is there's this another one of those little trapezoid details up here. It kind of looks like it's locking the back plate to the front plate. Now that's something I can work with. I think that is not a terrible idea. Oh yeah. On Twitter, man, they are insane. So I like the little latch detail right here on the side. I think I might run with something like that. On to the next one. This isn't one that I really wanted to pull from for reference. I just wanted to shout out Moki because I love his work. So there you go. Go check Moki out. Here's a GBO screenshot. Again, this one isn't a ground type, but I really like these little dipped panels and stuff like that. So I might find ways to work some of this stuff into the rest of what I'm doing. And then there's also like these little notches up here on the shoulders. I think those are a really good idea. So here's another one. Again, it uses those rectangular details across the fronts, and it's also on the back as well. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's got that latch, and I really like the way that looks. So I think I'm probably going to chisel out some notches on the legs, and then like kind of sculpt in a little bit of detail there or something. I think that's something I'm interested in doing. And then on the back, it's got that latch detail again. So maybe I can put that latch detail across the back of mine, and then have that plug on the front. I also like this little bit of detail underneath. And there's another thing I really liked about this one. And this wasn't detail that was added in. This is actually part of the stock kit. But I really like how on the bottoms of the shins, you've got like this little, it's almost like these little side pieces around the tops of the ankles are their own piece. And I think I'm going to try and kind of do something like that around here on like the mid plate here, where this kind of connects to this. I think I'd like to make this its own piece. We'll see though. That might be a bit above my pay grade, but we'll see. I think it's a good idea. Oh, I forgot to talk about something on the last one too. This right here on the side of the beam saber holder, is like a separate panel where I guess you could call this almost like a locking mechanism. I think I'm going to do something similar to this. I might even just copy this because I like the way it looks. But I think I'm going to extend it outward here. And it'll kind of almost mimic like if you need to repair the joints on this section, you can just pop these little corner panels off. But here in the middle is just kind of like a general maintenance or like an emergency eject or something. This is just some really insane scribing that I like. It's just a large flat panel, just some ideas. I like the shapes that are going on here. And then I think the other shot is like these really nice symmetrical notches and stuff like that, carving around the outside of a detail. This is a really nice shape too. It's like a U shape with some eye shapes and then like a lock in the middle. There's also a little asymmetry going on here. So like on one side you've got, I guess that would be a latch or a panel, but it's not on the other side. Maybe it's just like this is what's locking it in. It's just kind of like held under. This one, I can't remember what it was I saw about this one that I really liked. I don't know. I do like this little mechanism here, but I don't think there's anything else that's like not stock. So I don't remember why I left that open. I don't know what that is. This one I might have just grabbed because it was a ground type. I don't think there's any mod work done. Oh, there's a little bit. So again, just like a little cutout, and it just kind of creates the impression that there's some sort of like emergency release or something there. I also like the cutout on the side skirts rather than putting the ammo clips there. Just kind of filling it in with something else is kind of neat. So maybe I'll do that on one side. I kind of like the way that looks. This guy is a fantastic modeler. I wish I could zoom in on these. Let me see if I can use my keyboard. A little bit. So, oh, you get to a certain point and everything just kind of turns to mush. So let's reset that. It looks like he's using the same kind of scribes like I did on mine. It's a lot of like really straight lines, but the notches are on the inner side and they kind of intersect your horizontal lines. I do like that, but I don't think that there's any use for it with what I'm doing right now, so I think I'm going to pass on that. I like these bump lines here. This is a drawing. Again, I like a lot of the shapes this guy used. So it's like a line that runs across and then it staggers, and then it's almost like this piece up top over here kind of overlaps it a little bit, and then this is like the locking mechanism here in the middle. So another idea is you could just you could scribe a couple lines and then plate over top of it to create interesting shapes. Probably not something I'm going to do on this, but it's an idea worth revisiting. This is what I want, nice close-ups. So again, straight lines, broken with some other lines, and then these little, I really like the lines that are like on the chamfer of the piece. Those look really nice, especially when they're cleanly done like this. All right, so here's a good idea. I like this. This piece follows the same kind of line as this one, where it comes down in the middle, comes back, and then kind of cuts back into this little bezel here. But what he did is he scribed a line along the back. So it's like there's an armor frame or something like that here, and then there's armor on the bottom, and then there's a cuff that goes around the top. I think this might be a winner right now. I might do some other stuff too, like if I can incorporate that one latch that I really like from the earlier ones with this. I think that would be really cool. That might be the move. And he's also got those little trapezoid shapes. I also like this one on the top of the leg here, and it looks like it's only on the inside, so maybe because those ones don't open, maybe I'll run something like that. And then I don't think there's anything changed about this one. It's just light primed. So let's see. That looks good. So I like this, and then I like maybe not so much that, but like that. I like the square. I think that would look really cool. So let's jump back into it. I don't want to stop sharing my screen. There we go. All right. So if I'm using the other one as a reference, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to sand this down real quick. So I'm going to use this as a line. And then that's really as simple as that needs to be. So I can scribe that across. And then for my notch, I'm thinking I'm going to use my tape at the top here as my guideline for where I want it to sit, because there's this little ridge on both sides of this that I can use to make sure that the notch remains lined up the way I want it to, and I don't have to measure anything. Alternatively, I could probably use this line as well as a guidepost, but I think I'm going to use this top one, put it a little higher, just because I'm scribing this line in as well. So let's start with the bottom line, and then we'll add that notch in. And then, just for the hell of it, I'm going to put a piece of tape down here so that if I do scribe over, I don't have to worry about cleaning that up. It should just cut into the tape and not into the piece. Now I'm just going to use this little piece of scrap to do the same thing on this one. Okay, so Start here. Now I'm going to flip it and start it over on this way. All right, I think that came out pretty good. I'm gonna run through that one more time just to make sure that I got it how I want it. You can't really see it, but all right. So for those horizontal notches, I'm just going to grab a little bit of this and I'm going to line it up right there. Snip that little bit of extra off because I don't need it. And the idea is I'm going to scribe on that little edge. I'm thinking like a 1.5 millimeter, maybe 2. I think 2. Okay. And you know what? I need to make sure I protect the front sides too. I don't want to gouge into that. Now these are like the 2mm and like the 1mm, the bigger chisels, I really like them because you can do a lot of like extra stuff with them, but I feel that they're a little bit harder to kind of maintain control over. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently, I need to pick a spot where to start. Just going to go for like here, and I'm just going to very slowly pull that, and it does the same thing as the other chisels, but if your pressure isn't like in the middle is the easiest way to say it. Like if you're not pressing evenly on it, you really quickly see the way this line is going to jump. But again, you just want to go real slow. And then just like the other one, I'm going to push on this just a little bit to square things up. And there you go. So there's a little 2mm notch, nothing too crazy. Now I'm going to use my 1mm. I'm going to trace the outside just a little bit. And then I'm just going to, actually I think I'm going to go with a 3mm. I'm just going to make like a very small channel in the middle of that. Pull this tape off of this side, and we can see how we did. I'm going to use the 1mm again, just against this little itty bit right here, just to kind of create the illusion that this is its own piece. And then I'm going to come in here with my knife just a little bit and kind of scrape away some of this excess here. because it's a little bit harder to get into these in sand, but almost had it. Come on. There we go. So that little tiny latch detail is pretty much where I want it. So I'll give this just a light pass with the 800 just to clean up the outside of that raised edge, and hit this with a toothbrush. And I'm actually pretty content with that. I think that looks really cool. So the front's done, one side's done, we got to do the other side. So we can do that real quick. And then maybe we can move on to like some of the lower leg stuff. I think I went a little deeper on that one than I wanted to. That's all right though. We'll fix it all up. You won't even know, or maybe you will. All right. So on the lower leg, let's jump into this for a little bit. Man. And that's the other danger of using those big chisels like that. So this one, the design we had was kind of kind of like that, except obviously for starters a little bit cleaner. So the first thing I can do to make this look nicer is I can take it off, and you know, manipulating just this piece will make my life a little bit easier. So let's rub this away. Let's start over. I'm going to use some masking tape to create my lines. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use these little bezels here as my guidelines to create that straight edge across. Because you can't see it, but there's also like the piece kind of curves. So I'm just going to follow that curve. So line that up, line that up, and there's our line. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw lines here, and then let's do so there's the beginning and the ends of those. I pretty much want my line to go from, what's going on, Merritt? How you doing, man? From here to here. So that's why I drew all that. And go. So now I just have to retape this with scribing tape, and we have our guide. If I can find the end of it. I'm going to trim this. There we go. So now we can just go ahead and scribe that line in. So I'm going to start on the off side and scribe that through. And we're going to do across the top here. and then off the other side. And then we'll try and scribe all the way through. All right. That might be the cleanest thing I think I've scribed on this whole kit. So now, what I was talking about earlier was, in my head anyway, this first line here is kind of a like an emergency access panel. So if something malfunctions and you have to get into the beam saver compartment, repair workers would pop this off, and then there would be something underneath that let them open it up. But say one of the mechanical arms malfunctioned. I think I want to do just like something simple, nothing too crazy. Just like that. But that also kind of feels like a little bit much at the same time. I might sleep on that one. I don't know. Any thoughts? Oh, this is all upside down. Yeah, I think that would be the end of that. Maybe like a bolt detail or something on here, but yeah, I don't think I would do much more than that. Did I put this on totally upside down? I can't remember how this goes. Ah, yeah, this is all upside down. I think this whole thing is on upside down. I don't know what I've done to this. All right, let's run with it then. Let's see what happens. So let's see. I am definitely gonna have to measure this. So that is too much. It also looks really weird because of the shape of the piece. So that's not going to work. What's going on, Billy? How you doing, man? Ooh, drop it again. So let's just go with what we know. Let's just bring this up just a little bit on both sides here. That looks a lot better. Okay. So back to the tape. And I actually think I'm going to play with line weight again. So let's do maybe like a 0.3 on this, and then we'll go back to the 1 for the wraparound detail. CAD modeling. What are you making? Oh, nice. I hope you're doing good too, Merritt. How's your family doing, man? I'm going to use some tape to hold that down. Oh, I just broke that. That's okay though. You had another baby? I missed that. I bet those twins are a handful now. I got one. I don't know how you do too. Has the I don't know what your area is like, but has the virus affected your work at all? I imagine what you do, you can work remotely. Right, so let's put some pencil in these lines real quick. Excuse me. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. That's good. At least you don't have to worry about any of the nonsense, and you can stay home and work remotely. All right, so now I think I'm going to play with the idea of messing this up even more, but only a little bit. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of these, I would like to put two little like rivet details. Yeah, man, I work in schools, so I was not let go, but I was put on unemployment or on leave or whatever pretty much immediately, and it was fine for a while, but now it's gotten to the point where it just really, really, really sucks. because our unemployment system is trash. So I'm hoping that they can fix all that soon, and at least while I have to be off, I can be partly sane still. I know I had a pin vise up here. Where'd it go? Yeah, I'm sure it will. I'm trying to stay optimistic here, but I want to go back to work. Now I need that little round head that I have somewhere. I really should start putting my stuff away a little bit better. Usually I'm pretty okay about it, but right this second, I think this is probably too big. I won't. Got one Dremel head that has like a round end on it, and that is perfect for milling out these little rivet details. I thought it was up here, but I guess not. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I am too. Is like whenever I'm working on something, everything looks like a wreck. And believe it or not, usually I know where everything is, but I'm working on like 3 or 4 different things right now, so things get kind of shoved to the side as I need them, and well, I end up with this. Maybe it's in my box. Oh, I think I see it. Nope, that's the other one. Oh, wait, there it is. So I did put it away. So this little guy, I'm just gonna, by hand, give this a couple twists. There we go. So bezel those out just a little bit, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and shove some photo etch in there. Oh no, this is literally just a Dremel bit. I really want to get the God hand ones. Those things look really nice, but I'm poor right now, so I'm just gonna use what I got. One day I will get some of those little spin blades, though. They look really nice. And let's pick some photo etch. So from our round detail, we've got a lot to choose from, really. So, we've got these. Those are too big. All right. So we've got these little, they're like a bolt with like 4 little things on. Those look really cool. These are probably my favorite go-tos. They're just the round minus molds with the line that runs through them. Pretty common. These are probably a little bit too big, but pretty much the same thing, except come on, the minus mold cut is through a solid piece instead of being a cutout. But I think those are too big. We've got the less detailed minus molds. Come on. Focus. I know you can do it. I like how sometimes it just works, and then sometimes it fights you every step of the way. There we go. So that's just it's a little less detailed. I mean, as tiny as these are, I don't think anybody's going to notice anyway. And then we have just regular circle details. These are definitely the least interesting of the bunch. I'm kind of leaning into these. I think these look really cool, especially for where I'm putting them. Yeah, man, I'll be here for like another half hour or so. So it was good talking to you, though. I think we're going to go with these. So we just need to find a good size. I think 1.3. 1.6 might fit, but I feel like that's pushing it. So we're going to go with the 1.3. I'm going to grab a couple of these just in case I drop one, because I tend to do that. Just grab one extra. Okay. That's how tiny that is. I don't know how I'm going to pick these up. These might work. And then I need my little handy dandy piece of scrap plastic. Put some super glue on it. I might even go an extra. Oh, hey, look, here's the other one that I was looking for. I knew I had one up here on the desk. I think I'm going to take this to the next level. I'm going to take a toothpick. I think I'm going to dip this in here and then put that in the hole just to. Oh, shoot. And the super glue set. There we go. One down, one to go. Try a little bit harder. There we go. That was a lot easier. So there we go. So now I think we should be able to put this back in if I can find all the pieces. I think I lost the entire internal mechanism for it. Where did it go? Oh, it's behind my. I think that this goes in here. Oh my god, this is a mess. I really love that they put this gimmick in the kit, but it's so unnecessary to make it move this way. And then I just dropped a piece, so now it's even worse. Oh. I'm really gonna have to get down here on the floor. Oh, there it is. Cool. I'll take it. So 50% of being a modeler is finding all your stuff that has fallen on the floor. Okay. Somehow I just don't feel like this is right either. I feel like this is all wrong. Nope, maybe not. There we go. That looks pretty cool. I think that looks all right. Not too bad, not too much. All right, let's see if we can plot out one more nice little detail for the last little bit of this stream. So for this, I think I want to just add a little bit to this little piece right here. So let's pop this guy off. Maybe. This is fighting me hard. There we go. All right, so on this, I want to kind of replicate that GM detail. So sand that smooth. And I'm just going to start with like a simple line that runs across the top, or well, through the middle, I guess. So simple as that. And then from the corners, maybe a little farther than that. Well, my thought process here anyway is to divide these into sections, so it's kind of cut into rough thirds with the middle being a little bit larger, and then just kind of step that back just a little bit more. And then there we go. See if I can polish this a little bit away so we can get a better idea what we're doing. And that is crooked, so I'm definitely measuring this. So this is one of those ones that I'm going to have to actually do the work. There's not really a lot that I can do with like guidelines. So line across the top, and then lines into the tops of those cuts, and then I'm going to use that to measure out from the thing, and it should be pretty close. I just gotta find my ruler. Cool. All right, so let's try it this way. Much better. A lot cleaner. And strangely enough, it just lines up with this panel here. That's really funny. All right, so I think the hardest part is going to be getting this to wrap around, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. So now we can scribe across. All right, that came out really nice. I just got to finish scribing all the way through. But there's the front. And I think that's going to look kind of like it's part of the kit, which, I mean, obviously should be the goal. Yeah, I should just be able to just slap a piece of tape on there and finish that line. I think I'm going to scribe this here. Oh. There we go. Let me pencil this again. So there we go. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and call this done for tonight. Give me a little bit to work towards in the coming week. If you guys are planning on joining me Friday in the Helios guys, we are going to be playing games, so it's going to be a game night. you know, we're going to be playing like Jackbox and Drawful and stuff like that. So you guys are able to participate in those games. Hopefully they run a little bit smoother than they did last time. We didn't have too many issues, but it was enough to merit calling them issues. So hopefully we'll see you guys on Friday. If not, you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we decide to stream again. So thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate you guys. Later.